Hey everybody, Sean here, and today we'll listen to a clip of Jesse Duplantis and another false teaching on God. So let's jump right in. There are many videos on Jesse's false teachings online already, but this clip just adds reasons to why nobody should be following this man.
I'm going to say something going to knock your lights off. God has the power to take life, but he can't.
So right from the start, the false teachings begin. Some say that God and can't should never be used in a sentence together. And while that's true for the most part, we do get some exceptions, such as God can't lie. And there's other examples, but other than things that would go against who God is, God can't should not be used together, especially as Jesse is saying. To say God can't kill is just foolish. What about Noah's Ark and when God destroyed everyone and everything except a select group? And once again, there's obviously more examples, but let's continue.
He got the power to do it, but he won't. He's bound. He can't.
We read in Revelation 20 that Satan is bound for 1,000 years. Now, being bound means that he's restricted, prohibited, imprisoned, or constrained, and none of these words apply to God's ability to do whatever he wants and whenever he wants to do it. God is not bound.
He says death and life is in the power of whose tongue? Yours. You ready for this? You want something that'll knock your lights off? You choose when you live. You choose when you die. Death and life's in the power of your tongue. Not God's. Now, he's got the power. But he will not exercise that because you are a speaking spirit. So he says, speak life. He even tells them, choose life. It's death and blessing, man. Let me help you out. Let me help you. Life.
So this all boils down to the misused verse that the power of life and death are in the tongue. This is just one verse used to support the name it and claim it theology, or the power of positive or negative confession, as we hear from people like Joel Osteen, Kenneth Copeland, and even supporter Todd White. But to twist this into saying that we have the power to control when we die and God does not is a whole new level of twisted scripture. So let's take a look at what scripture does have to say on this matter in regards to the length of our lives. Job 14 gives us a great insight to this. It says, since his days are determined, the number of his months is with you, and his limits you have set so that he cannot pass. We need to look at two key words here. Job says that God has determined and has set the limits on our lives. The Hebrew word for determined is haratz, and the word literally means to cut. That is, God cuts off a man's life and does not allow him to continue to live forever. And that is the result of Adam and Eve's sin in Genesis. They were told if they ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they would die. And the second word limits in Hebrew is hak and means a boundary. God has set a boundary or maximum on the length of our lives. In Psalms 139, it says, your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. Depending on what translation you use, it can say days that were formed, ordained, or planned for me. So while God is omniscient and knows exactly when, where, and how we will die, we can also have an impact on when, where, and how we die. If someone takes their own life, then they've decided to change God's plans for us in life and shorten the time that he had originally planned for us. And although God has set up those boundaries, we get a couple of examples of lengthening of life. King Hezekiah of Judah was told by God that he was going to die, but he prayed that God would let him live, and God granted him 15 more years. We are also told to honor our father and mothers, and we will live long on the earth. So, while these points are interesting to consider, when we go back to Jesse Duplantis saying that God is bound and does not control when we die, and that we do, is simply false and exalts man's power over God's. We'll leave it here for today. But as always, feel free to leave your thoughts and comments below, and until next time, take care and God bless.